Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 249. I am so happy you are here with us today because we're talking all about happiness. Seriously, we're talking about happiness, science of happiness. What's the point of making sure we are raising our family to be happy and joyful, and how it relates to our homeschooling and can help us be more successful as human beings and raise the next generation to be more resilient and successful as well. Coming up here in the Learners Lab for the month of July, we are going to be diving deep into this topic. We'll have a parent masterclass all about the science of happiness and how we can cultivate more joy in our homeschool. The kids will be working on different ideas of cultivating happiness within themselves and within their family as a whole through our creative thinking exercises, activities, meetups, and clubs. And I'm so excited to introduce you, podcast listeners, to a little bit of that topic as well, because I know it's an important one, especially in today's times. We need to find the joy in the things that we do, no matter how hard daily life is. It is important to our future success and our kids' resilience. Before we begin, though, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, CTC Math, which you'll be hearing about a little bit later in this episode. You've heard me talk about them before. We are happy customers and have been subscribers to CTC Math for several years now. And a new sponsor this month, Lexercise. Lexercise is a company that we used years ago when we were first trying to figure out my daughter's dyslexia, and they were really, really helpful. Their resources were helpful, the program was helpful, and I know you're going to love it. If you've got a kiddo with reading challenges, you're going to want to hear all about Lexercise and check them out. So, pop those earbuds in. Let's get on with today's episode right after this word about Lexercise. Are you a homeschooling parent with a child struggling with reading, writing, or spelling? Lexercise can help. Their online platform offers self-paced learning and expert instruction customized to your child's needs, all based on the Orton-Gillingham approach. We used Lexercise back when Logan was first diagnosed with dyslexia when she was, 8 or 9. And oh my goodness, the personalized support they gave us, the attention to detail, the program itself was just incredible. And Logan grew leaps and bounds. I'm so proud to have them as a sponsor for the podcast right now because more people need to know about their services. You can join thousands of families who have seen effective results, including mine, and have unlocked their child's love of learning. Visit lexercise.com/learners for a free learning disability screener and to learn more about their programs. Check them out and let me know what you think. Ask me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them or direct you to my contacts at Lexercise. But if you have a kiddo who struggles with reading, writing, or spelling, you definitely want to check out lexercise.com/learners and see what they can offer you. All right, let's get on with today's episode. Okay, I am so excited about this episode today, and there are a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is I just think that we forget in the day-to-day of our parenting and our homeschooling grind that it is important to do all of these things that we're doing with our kids and for our families with an attitude of joy and happiness, because we want to foster and cultivate those feelings within our home because they have so many social and emotional and cognitive benefits for our kids and for us ourselves. And then also because as I was researching my new book, The Homeschool Advantage, which comes out very soon. In fact, if you head over to the show notes for this episode, if you are listening to this episode as it airs, there will be a link in the show notes to a pre-order page where you can click there and you can order the book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever books are sold. and you can come back and enter in your receipt number, and you'll get delivered a whole bunch of really cool bonuses. We've got a class, a live Q&A, some really cool resources that friends have donated to kickstart your homeschool and help you thrive, along with some things that I've created to help you find your kids' interests, strengths, and passions so you can tailor your homeschool to your specific kids. But when I was researching the Homeschool Advantage, the book is called The Homeschool Advantage, A Child-Focused Approach to Raising Lifelong Learners, and is just a passion project. I'm so excited to get this in your hands. But as I was researching it, I spent a lot of time diving deeply into positive psychology and some works of really amazing psychologists in this field. And one of the things that just kept coming up again and again was the importance of cultivating joy and happiness in our kids for their social, emotional, and cognitive benefit and their future success. So we are going to talk about fostering that happiness and cultivating that joy in our homeschool today on the podcast. First, let's talk about what happiness is. Happiness is complex. It's a multifaceted concept that is defined, really, if we were going to go into a dictionary, right, as a state of well-being that's characterized by emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. It encompasses both the presence of positive emotion and the absence of negative ones. I think it's interesting, too, it's timely that this episode is coming out because Inside Out 2 is currently just blowing up the box offices right now. And I have not seen it yet, but some very well-respected psychologists and people whose work I admire are endorsing it. And my daughter, who has generalized anxiety disorder, saw it with friends last week and said that it resonated so much with her that she wants to see it again with me because the way they portrayed anxiety in particular on screen was very much how she feels and pictures it interacting within her body. And so I think that anytime we can visit positive emotions with our kids and help them see how they can cultivate these within their own selves for their betterment, we should do it. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what those components of happiness are, the positive emotions. One is joy. It's that feeling of great pleasure and happiness, which is sometimes momentary, sometimes intense, and sometimes just an ongoing kind of excitement or exhilaration or positive flood of emotions based on what's going on in their life. My daughter feels that way when she's anticipating going to the program she's now volunteering for because she loves it. And that anticipation and excitement and then the work itself brings her this pleasure and happiness. Contentment is also a component of happiness. Contentment's that satisfaction and peace of mind that we have that's like long term. So unlike joy, which is that intense pleasure, that excitement, that momentary feeling that we get when something good is happening or about to happen, contentment is more enduring. It's less intense. It helps us feel comfortable. It helps us feel stable. It's that quiet happiness of daily life, especially a life where we feel fulfilled. So overall, I feel pretty content in my life. I love what I do. I love my work. I love talking to families who are along for the ride of this homeschool journey with me. I love talking to kids and getting inside their brains and how they think and encouraging their parents to find that unique spark to help fan it so it builds into this flame of interest and talent and they find out who they are and then their parents grow them into these people that they're meant to be. I just love the feeling of working with families. I love the writing and the speaking and the creation I'm able to do to support homeschool families, particularly those homeschooling families like probably you listening who are raising and teaching neurodivergent kids, kiddos who are gifted, twice exceptional, have ADHD, have anxiety disorders, whether diagnosed or not, are autistic, have learning challenges like dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, or any number of things or combinations thereof. I love being able to help you see your kiddo in front of you and know that you are the perfect parent for them. You are the perfect teacher for them. And I get to do that through my job, through my work with my own kids, because my own kids are quirky and neurodivergent too. I get to do it through this new book that's coming out. And that leads me to this ability and comfort in my everyday life and contentment. Sure, I get these feelings of joy. I'm recording this episode right now in an Airbnb because my daughter is at a vocal performance and a cappella camp, and it was several hours away from me. So I drove her and a couple friends here, dropped them off, and then settled in an Airbnb to catch up on and get ahead of some work. And I was recording this podcast or getting ready to when I'm near an Air Force base. And apparently there is a mini air show going on at the Air Force base today. And it happened to start right around when I was first recording this episode. Let me tell you, you cannot record an episode in a house where there are fighter jets flying by above you. You just can't do it. And so I had to stop and I had to laugh. I shot a couple videos off of the front porch to send to my husband and my sons, and I just did a couple other things while I watched fighter jets fly by. And that at first brought moments of frustration and then actually brought moments of joy because it was really cool to hear this sound building in the air and then these jets bursting overhead and then the sound like fading away. And it was really cool. Another component of happiness, too, is a sense of positive well-being. Just that general idea that you're thriving and flourishing in life. This includes what I was just talking about, feeling fulfilled, having a purpose, and experiencing like overall life satisfaction. Positive well-being integrates physical, mental, and emotional health. I think it's important for us to remember and teach our children that happiness really can only come with a convergence of those things. You can't just feel happy. You need to build a physical, mental, and emotional life that is healthy. If your body is breaking down or you're chronically ill, it's hard to feel joyful. And so we need to make sure that we're taking care of our bodies and our brains all together. There's sometimes temporary pleasure, and then there's long-term happiness. Our goal throughout this episode and throughout our raising of our children is to help them find long-term happiness. Temporary pleasure is going to give them short-lived feelings of happiness from immediate experiences or gains. For example, eating a delicious meal. Yesterday, again, I'm in an Airbnb while I'm recording this, which may be why I don't know exactly what it sounds like yet because I'm in the process of recording, but I do know that it's not going to be as crystal clear as a sound as it could be if I were recording in my office with my noise dampening shades on my windows and the foam around my mic. But one of the nice things about being away, besides being able to relax in quiet and peace, which comes difficultly for us with multiple children being homeschooled and home all the time, but also the fun of ordering takeout. And so yesterday I ordered DoorDash and got a takeout delivery from the Cheesecake Factory, which was so nice. It was so delicious. I actually splurged and I ordered myself this delicious pasta dish with chicken on it and an Oreo cheesecake for dessert. And then, are you ready for this? This is how indulgent I am being and how many small pleasures I am enjoying in my little mini retreat alone. I ordered a carrot cake too. Carrot cake from the Cheesecake Factory is one of my favorite guilty pleasures, especially when I can order it and put it in the refrigerator overnight. It gets nice and cold and just delicious, and those carrots like all soak up together, and it's a fabulous breakfast with a hot cup of coffee. And so I did. I ordered 2 desserts and my meal and put one of them in the refrigerator, and I ate that with my morning coffee today. That brings temporary pleasure. Buying a new gadget or something that you've been wanting for a while, watching a favorite TV shows. These pleasures boost moods momentarily, but they don't contribute to long-lasting happiness. It's important for us to take those small pleasures when we can, because treating ourselves and doing things that bring joy to ourselves and others. I just purchased concert tickets for my daughter for her 17th birthday, something she's really wanted. It's an indulgence, but it is going to bring her tremendous amounts of pleasure and build a memory with us, with the two of us together. Those things are important. It is important to build memories and to treat yourself and your loved ones, but it's more important to do small things consistently to give us long-term happiness. Those temporary pleasures last for short amounts of time. They tend to rely on an external stimulus or circumstance to give us that, like I just talked about, a movie that I'm watching, the air show that's flying by, the concert that I'm taking my daughter to, my delicious indulgence of a Cheesecake Factory meal, dessert, and breakfast. They can be intense, but they're fleeting, right? Long-term happiness is a more enduring state of happiness. It comes from within, and it's linked to deeper life satisfaction and well-being. It involves the cultivation of positive emotions, engagement in meaningful activities, strong relationships, and a sense of purpose. It's sustainable. It lasts over a longer period of time. It's internally driven. It arises from our internal state and our own personal growth, and it's balanced. It's not necessarily intense, but it's steady. This type of long-term happiness is what is going to be our goal as parents, and especially as homeschooling parents, because this is what's going to give our children strong social and emotional bases that will lead to greater resilience and a stronger cognitive advantage as they go off into the world. Here's the thing. This ties in so beautifully to, and I have a whole chapter on this idea of positive psychology that it talks about this happiness along with other things in the Homeschool Advantage. So check that out when it comes out on July 30th, or pre-order it now. But when we're cultivating that long-term happiness, it's leading to all these other things, and the other ideas that I've shared with you over the years here on the podcast can all tie into that overall long-term sense of positive well-being in our families, because it all goes hand in hand. A couple weeks ago, we talked about building a family team in your home and being all in it together. And we talked about that, actually took a deep dive into that in the Learner's Lab. It's one of the things, here's a quick little small plug for the Learner's Lab if you haven't considered it recently. It's a great community. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the founder of it. Of course, I want you to join the Learner's Lab because it's my baby. But here's the thing. I'm not just the founder, I'm a member as well. My kids, my younger two in particular, participate in the classes and the activities. I created what was missing in the homeschool world. We talk about social and emotional skills. We talk about creative thinking. We talk about critical thinking. We talk about cultivating those areas, those soft skills and those areas of the brain, which is all good for all kids. It's crucial, frankly, for neurodivergent kids who process the world differently. It's crucial for them to understand emotions and normalize them and talk about them more, because the understanding of it is what leads them to being better able to come to grips with it and improve their own social and emotional well-being. And all of the things that we've talked about, all of the themes we've had monthly over the last couple of years in the Learner's Lab, all lead towards happiness. It's all roads lead towards this long-term contentment. The examples and the components that I'm going to give you here in just a second all are topics I've talked about here on the podcast and concepts worth revisiting regularly. So the first one I want to talk about just briefly is relationships. When we have and we help our children have strong, supportive relationships with family, friends, and the general community, this contributes significantly to long-term happiness. Here's the thing. Friendships outside the home can be challenging 4 neurodivergent individuals, both children and adults. I can't tell you how many teens in particular I have talked to over the years through my work in talking to families who are raising gifted and twice exceptional kids in particular, but all sorts of neurodivergencies. How many of them have come to me and said, I just don't have any friends, or I don't know how to help my child find friends. And I feel for them. I remember a time, I think it was at a convention in South Carolina, where this sweet 16-ish-year-old girl and I were talking, and she had tears in her eyes, and she's like, people just don't get me. And then I don't get them. And I don't feel like I'm ever going to find anybody. And she went on to talk about all these things that she's tried, co-ops and activities and different things like that. And she was a very academically minded kiddo with very niche interests. And I said to her, it's hard. You're going to find your friends, but they're not going to necessarily be your same age. They're going to be based on your interests. Finding others who are as fascinated by this niche topic as you are is what's going to bring you towards your closer friends. And I can say that with complete confidence because she was me when I was 16. I don't have a lot of strong friendships from when I was younger. I remember my junior and senior high school year, my junior high and my high school years being a lot of me talking with my teachers, my neighbors, and other adults in my life because I got them and they got me. And we could talk in a more intelligent and articulate way than I could talk with my same age peers. Now, I was still active. I was involved in clubs. I was involved in sports. I did a lot of things in high school, but I never felt the deep connections that I did when I started meeting people in college and then in my jobs. College, I met a handful of people that I knew peripherally. I wasn't able to go away to college. I commuted because I needed to work several jobs in order to put myself through school. And I was very much a commuter student. And I would go to my classes and go home and then go to my different jobs. I had a weekend job and then I had 2 different jobs during the week. I was a secretary at a doctor's office. And then after the doctor's office closed, I went and I served in a bar and grill. And so I worked a lot. And that doesn't leave a lot of time for friendships. But when I became a teacher and when I went for my master's and I began speaking on the topics of gifted and twice exceptionalities and then eventually homeschooling and neurodivergencies, I met more and more kindred spirits. Grew this network of strong and supportive relationships through our shared interests. Some of my best friends now live scattered across the country, yet I talk with them every single day because we have shared interests and intellectual conversations. So for those of you who have kids that don't necessarily fit in with the people around them now, I want to encourage you to find ways to build strong relationships outside the box. Build up your family team and revisit the episode of the podcast where we just talked about that. And then get your kiddos involved in volunteer work or clubs that are related to their interests or topics that they're fascinated by. Help them get a job early on. Help them network in ways that are going to introduce them to people they can talk to that maybe aren't necessarily same age peers. That's okay. But having strong relationships, whether it's in their family, their immediate family, or beyond, those strong relationships are going to help build the foundation for long-term happiness. Another component of building long-term happiness or helping your kids build long-term happiness is getting them involved in engaging activities, especially those that provide a sense of purpose and align with your family's personal values. These lead to fulfilling and meaningful lives. This is if you are a family of faith, getting involved in your church, getting involved in community, volunteer work. An example is my daughter who wants to go into something related to working within a zoo or for a zoo. She is in a teen zoo program that volunteers 1 to 2 6-hour shifts a week all summer long. And she'll do this for all of her high school career. My other daughter, who plans to go into the performing arts, is volunteering as a preschool assistant teacher in a preschool acting class. So finding meaningful, engaging activities that are related to their values and the things that they love can lead to meaningful lives, really, and a fulfillment. So if you've been a listener of the podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about CTC Math for the last couple of years. They have been supportive sponsors of the podcast, and as I've told you before, I'm a customer. My kids use CTC Math in their homeschool. I am a paying subscriber and have been for a number of years, even before CTC sponsored the podcast. I am a raving fan, and I will continue talking about their resources and their program until long after I'm done homeschooling, because I think it's really versatile for so many different types of families, whether your kids are super strong in an area or super weak in an area of math. It allows you to customize their education when it comes to math. I've talked to so many families over the years that I want to share with you a message that I received from Sandy, a longtime listener who was content in what they were using until, again, they weren't, and they switched over to CTC Math based on a recommendation that they'd heard on the podcast. Sandy writes, "We too started using CTC Math following your recommendation, Colleen. One of my sons is so dedicated. Then, after watching over his shoulder, my other son started using it too. They both now do an hour each workday by choice. I even enjoy it myself. I do the lessons with them, which is a handy brush up, and will occasionally do some of the algebra lessons ahead of time. Math was not my strong suit in school, but now I love it, and I wish the program had been available in the 80s. Too many people think they're terrible at math, but I truly believe we all just need a method of learning that suits us. CTC Math seems to work for all three of us." So check out ctcmath.com or go to the link over in the show notes for this episode and click on it to go over there and see the offer that they have for podcast listeners. You don't have to just take my word for it. You can take Sandy's as well. CTC is a great program and could be a wonderful benefit for your homeschool. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Also, helping our kids achieve personal goals and find a sense of accomplishment, helping them find ways to experience growth and progress, it fosters a sense of self-worth, which stems from that sense of accomplishment. So my kids have all tried theater at one point or another in their lives. All of them have gotten parts in different areas. All of them have not gotten parts for things that they've auditioned for. And both of these things teach valuable lessons. And when they participate in a project like putting on a musical or a play, they all come together with the rest of the cast and the crew and the creative team to present this amazing and beautiful production for others to enjoy. And that leads to a really strong sense of self-worth. It also, another thing that we want to remember to do when we're helping our kids find this long-term contentment is help them find ways to build resilience. We've talked about resilience on this podcast a few times. We'll make sure we link to some of the past episodes in the show notes. But basically, resilience is the ability to cope, to bounce back from adversity, and to deal with disappointment. And when we have the ability to cope with adversity and bounce back, we have a stronger sense of confidence, which leads to that sense of control and builds our long-term contentment. Okay, so there is science that backs this up. I said earlier in this podcast that we were going to talk about the science of happiness too. And so I want to talk a little bit about the branch of psychology that focuses on positive aspects of human life, like happiness, being, flourishing. It is a branch of psychology called positive psychology. I talk a lot about it in the book, Homeschool Advantage, a child-focused approach to raising lifelong learners, because There was a movement in the late 1990s, originally introduced by a psychologist named Martin Seligman, and it was moving away. He was helping psychologists move away from the traditional approach to psychology, which was focusing on the dysfunction, and flipping the switch to focus on what contributes to meaning and happiness. And instead of pathologizing or doing less of something that's causing problems, let's find the sparks and do more of what builds meaning and helps us live a positive life. It goes hand in hand with one of the core tenets of the book and kind of one of the core things I talk about when it comes to homeschooling our neurodivergent kids is that idea of building on kids' strengths and not overly focusing on their weaknesses. Now, I'm not saying we should never focus on weaknesses. We absolutely should. But we should do it from a place of strength and passion and interest, because if we're always pointing out what's wrong and we're focusing on life from a deficit-based perspective, what needs fixed, our kids they're going to grow up thinking that they're broken or that they're wrong or that they're bad. And so when we flip that switch and we focus on what they're good at and their strengths and their interests and their passions, we are better able to help them bring up the things with which they struggle. It's the same thing with positive psychology. Martin Seligman is known for his work specifically on the PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. We're going to talk about what those letters stand for in a second, model of psychology and the concept of learned helplessness. Now, learned helplessness is all over TikTok right now when it comes to relational dynamics. And I tease my oldest son, who is editing this podcast right now, about his own learned helplessness. If I don't know how to do the laundry, I don't have to do my own laundry. But this goes beyond this. Seligman's research has been pivotal in shifting the focus from treating mental illness from finding what's wrong and just treating it to building on the positive qualities and doing more of that to help with that treatment and to take it from that perspective. A couple of his books that you might want to check out, and we'll link to them in the show notes, Authentic Happiness and Flourish. They outline his theories. I also have a whole section on him in the Homeschool Advantage, so you can check that out too. When we talk about the PERMA model, it's the central theory in positive psychology that he developed and that others still use today. It outlines 5 core elements that contribute to being and happiness. And so these are the things that I want to go over, and I want us to all, me included, because I don't always do this. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, I am a tired homeschool mom who has 4 children, one of whom is an adult still living with us, building his life. Another is a rising senior going into her senior year of high school where we have to do all the college stuff. And then 2 younger kids and a full workload and a big house to take care of and animals. And sometimes I'm just tired. And sometimes I just want people to fix what's wrong. But we should all try to incorporate these 5 core elements as much as we can to really build up that contentment and long-term happiness in our home. So the first is the P, positive emotion. The element and experience of pleasant emotions like joy, gratitude, serenity, interest, and hope are essential for a happy life. They enhance well-being and help individuals to build enduring personal resources and development. So we want to find ways to incorporate things that bring about positive emotions as often as possible. Even if that's find one happy thing a day. Sit around your kitchen table when you're eating your dinner or your lunch and have each kid share one positive thing that happened to bring back that feeling from their day. Talk about positive things, give opportunities, create opportunities for you to be positive together, for you to experience joy together, for you to talk about the things for which you're grateful, to build hope, dive into areas of interest. Then we can take those emotions and build on them with the E, engagement, being deeply involved and absorbed in activities that use our skills and our talents, because this leads to an intrinsic motivation and satisfaction. When we're focused on activities we're good at and we enjoy, it creates a flow and a sense of fulfillment in our lives and actually contributes to us losing that self-consciousness that we feel when we're caught up in who we are. I remember I was sitting in on my daughter's interview for this zoo volunteer program that she was a part of because it was their policy. The person who runs the program is a man, and he didn't want to be in a room closed off indoors with teen girls. And if he didn't have somebody on staff that could be in the back of the room, he had parents come in too, which is great. I love that they're thinking about that. And I was in there silently in the back while her interview was being conducted. And he talked to her about all the things, you'd expect in an interview about a zoo volunteer program. And then he said, okay, if there was one thing you were hoping to get out of this program that doesn't relate to a potential career in zoology or zookeeping or animal training or anything related to the zoo, but something more personal, what would that be? And she looked at him straight in the eye and she said, I am hoping that being a part of this zoo program will help me overcome some more of my social anxiety. She said, I have generalized anxiety disorder, and sometimes I struggle in social situations. But when I'm talking about something I'm interested in, I can overcome that a little bit better. But I still don't voluntarily go towards opportunities where I don't know anybody. And I think that a program like this, where I'm coming in with no other friends, will force me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but within the context of knowing the topic I'm talking about. So I think being able to talk to guests at the zoo about the animals they're looking at when we're volunteering at an exhibit, for example, will help me overcome that initial feeling of social anxiety that I get when I'm approached by a person I don't know, so that I can articulate better in other situations where it's not a topic that I know a lot about. But by easing in and talking about animals, which I love, I think that I could be less anxious, perhaps, by the end of this program. And I was blown away, and I was so impressed because what a great answer, first of all. And then later when I talked with the organizer, he said most of the kids that he interviewed talked about making new friends and learning a new skill and learning more about a specific animal that they loved and getting out of the house and doing something interesting for the summer. He said he was so impressed with her answer because not only was she not embarrassed to share about a challenge she faces, it felt just to him like it was completely normalized to her. It was just a part of who she was, and she was seeking out opportunities to overcome this challenge, and that was very impressive for him. When we become engaged in activities that use our skills and talents, we lose some of that self-consciousness because we're passionate about the areas in which we're participating. And finding those ways to bring in those positive emotions and then get engaged in things that tap into interests, talents, or passions fits right in with that PERMA model. Positive emotions, engagement, and then relationships. Seligman says that the relationship component of his model is having meaningful, supportive, and positive connections with others because strong social relationships are fundamental to well-being. They provide us with support, love, and a sense of belonging. We've talked about this numerous times on the podcast. I'm going to refer you again to the episode where we talked about building a family team because it's so much this. When we have strong connections, we feel more positive. When we feel more positive, we have more happiness and more contentment. It's so important that we have a supportive system surrounding us. The M of the PERMA model is meaning. Having a sense of purpose and direction in life and feeling that life is valuable and worth living helps us develop our values, our beliefs, and gives us a strong sense of direction. It allows us to contribute to life in a meaningful way, which gives us a better overall satisfaction in the life that we're living. Now, this could be anything. It could be from something like what I do, where I'm talking with families about how they are exactly who they're meant to be, and they are exactly who their children need. and their children are exactly who they're meant to be. And you can do this homeschooling thing to something like getting up on stage and entertaining people because you have a talent for singing or acting, to writing a book that is filled with fluffy, fun stories because entertainment is important, to developing a new theorem in mathematics because understanding the way the world works logically and analytically is important too. Whatever it is that aligns with the direction you or your child is going contributes to that overall satisfaction of their life and gives their life meaning, helps them realize that life is worth living. No matter how hard it gets, there's a deeper meaning for them. Which leads to the A part of the PERMA model and achievement. When we're pursuing and accomplishing our goals, when we're mastering our skills and achieving a sense of competence within those areas especially that bring us meaning, we are contributing to our overall well-being because that sense of accomplishment and progress boosts self-esteem and confidence. It's super important for us and our kids to be achieving something every day. I watch it happen in people my age, in friends and family members who, as they get older, their life is just in a rut, right? One, you go to work, come home, do some laundry, do a couple chores, get to bed, get up and go do it over again. Because by the time they get to their late 40s or 50s or beyond, it's just the same old, and there's this drudgery to it. But if we're doing something and we're encouraging our kids to do something that brings them value and meaning and achievement, they are more likely to stay happy longer. I love my life. I turned 50 this year, and I was just telling somebody recently that I have never felt better. I am taking better care of my body. I am eating better. I'm just starting to push myself to exercise more. I'm not great at that yet, but I'm hoping to get better at that soon. My goal is to not be a grandmother one day who can't get on the floor with her grandkids. I want to be enjoying life for a long time, and I want to be enjoying the lives my children build. And so I want to stay healthy and I want to stay fulfilled. And part of that is the relationships I'm building with my children. But part of that too is having a reason to get up every day that's beyond them. I have said again and again in this episode that I love my work and I love what I do. My work ties right into my hobbies and my interests, which are reading and writing, particularly nonfiction. I love writing nonfiction. I love coming up with ways to help others learn about the things I'm learning about. And I'm so much better at synthesizing the research and the topics into bite-sized pieces and more easily digested chunks than I am at writing fiction and made-up stories. And so it's play for me. Finding something that's meaningful that you can do is fulfilling and leads to a longer-term contentment in your life. And we want that for our kids. When we understand and apply the principles of positive psychology to our homeschool, we can enhance our kids' happiness and well-being. We can, within the homeschooling context, foster positive emotions. We can create a joyful and supportive learning environment like we've talked about before on this podcast. We can create engagement by allowing our kids to pursue their interests and activities that are captivating to them. We can help them build strong relationships through regular family activities, open communication, and then involvement in the greater community. We can help our kiddos find meaning by connecting the things that we're doing within our homeschool to their own personal values, our family's values, and their life goals. We can also promote achievement by setting realistic goals, celebrating progress and successes as they go. When we incorporate things like the PERMA model, and over on the show notes for this episode, I'll have a really nice little PDF that you can download that lists this PERMA model out for you if you want to keep it as a reminder. But when we incorporate things like that into our daily routines, we can help our kiddos develop a balanced and fulfilling approach to life, which lays the foundation for their long-term happiness and well-being. Okay, so obviously, based on this episode, you've heard that there are scientific reasons for cultivating that joy and happiness in your home And this leads to social and emotional benefits like long-term contentment, resilience, confidence, a sense of meaning, a direction in their life, balance, and just overall contentment, like we talked about. But here's the thing. When we help our kids cultivate joy and find more happiness in their lives, it actually has cognitive benefits too. When our kids are happy, when they are positive, when we are positive, our memory is improved. How many of you listening to this get overwhelmed, stressed out, frustrated with the rut that parenting can become and all the things you have to do, and then you feel this lethargic kind of sense of being and almost a depressive-like state, but then also that brain fog? I know I have felt that, and that's one of the reasons over the last couple of months especially, I've been really intentional about trying to find something to be happy about every single day. There are so many cognitive benefits to those joyful hormones running through your body, and a long-term, balanced, consistent contentment. Improved memory is one. Happiness enhances our cognitive functioning, particularly memory, and increases the production of dopamine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters that play a crucial role in learning and memory. Studies have shown that kiddos who experience positive emotions are better at recalling information. They have higher retention rates. People who are happier also have increased creativity. They are more likely to think outside the box. Remember, we said they're more self-confident? They lack that self-consciousness that unhappy people tend to have when you're always thinking about what other people are thinking about you. And someone who is more joyful and happy is more likely to think outside the box and come up with innovative solutions. The positive emotions broaden our thought processes. It's easier to generate new ideas and see different perspectives because we have cognitive flexibility and creativity. And so people who are fostering this level of contentment in their home are more open to new experiences and more willing to explore. This directly improves creative thinking. It also improves problem-solving skills. When we have a positive outlook, we have a better ability to find solutions to problems. I tell my kids this all the time because we have family members who are always finding the gray clouds in the blue sky. And so I talk to them about that idea of, do you want to be the problem finder or do you want to be the solution finder? Finding contentment in life by being solution-focused instead of problem-focused or blame-focused. When we are always looking for what's wrong and looking for what the problem is or who is to blame for whatever's going on, we are constantly stuck in a cycle of negativity. And so if we switch our thinking to finding solutions, what do we need to do to be able to do this? What could we do to try to solve this instead of, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to do this? Being focused on the solutions is a pathway to more positivity. But then on the flip side of it, when we are happier, we are just naturally looking for ways to persist in the face of challenges, and we consider a wider range of potential solutions. So it just goes hand in hand. As a reminder, some of the social and emotional benefits of happiness is that we have better relationships. We are more likely to be kind, empathetic, and cooperative when we are already feeling content within our lives. And so this strengthens our social bonds, our relational bonds with one another, whether it's within the family or without, because we're just naturally looking for the good in people. We have more resilience. We are able to bounce back from adversity. We are better able to cope with stress because positive emotions provide a buffer against the negative effects of stress. It enables us to recover more quickly from setbacks. We have more motivation. Who doesn't want a more motivated child, right? Especially when we're homeschooling them. Happy kids are more motivated to learn. They're more motivated to engage with their surroundings, with their studies, with their chores, with their siblings, with their parents. Positive emotions foster a sense of intrinsic motivation, which is where the desire to learn comes from. And then you are able to be less reliant on external rewards. How can we do this? We talked about creating a joyful and supportive atmosphere, But you can do this within your home by celebrating small successes, incorporating fun and playful activities, fostering that sense of family, team, community, belonging, getting involved in things outside the home. You can encourage positive relationships by facilitating regular social interactions, both within the family and with peers. You can get your kids involved. You can get involved in group activities, cooperative projects, community involvement. My daughter does theater. We've talked about this before on the podcast. And the current theater group that she is really deeply involved with is about 40 minutes away, and she does not drive. I still make sure, as often as humanly possible, if something is going on with one of those friends from that group, I will take her to wherever they're all meeting up so she can continue within those relationships, because by and large, they are positive for her. I want her to be around people that build her up, and so I'm going to make sure that I'm facilitating those relationships. And sometimes that means for us, parents of teens and tweens, we are in the car waiting for our children to live their best lives. I think the majority of my last 2 years, which is why you have not seen me so much on social media, has been sitting in a car and waiting, or making small talk with other parents who are sitting at a different table in the restaurant and waiting. I think there's a tremendous value in that. I don't begrudge my daughter a moment of those times. And while I get tired and would rather be home reading my book or in bed a lot of the time, I make sure that I have something to bring me joy when I'm sitting there. There have been many times where she's been a part of something that's run late. This particular theater program does a bonding experience twice a year, and they do laser tag after hours. And the laser tag pizza party bonding experience doesn't end till like midnight or 1 a.m. And we live 50 minutes from this particular laser tag place. I bring snacks for my car and an audiobook, and I chill out in my car and I make the best of the situation. And we need to do that as parents because we need to cultivate those relationships. We want to teach our kids coping skills like mindfulness, stress management techniques, problem-solving strategies. We want to encourage a growth mindset with them, so challenges are now viewed as opportunities for growth. Remember, focusing on a solution-driven approach to life instead of a problem-focused approach to life. We also really want our kids to develop that intrinsic motivation for learning and discovering and exploring. So we want to allow our kids to pursue their own interests as much as possible. We want to give them autonomy in some of their learning choices, have them have a say in what they're learning if they're able to. I was just having a conversation within the Learners Lab last night. We did a group coaching call, a Q&A, where it's like an Ask Me Anything for an hour or two. It actually is more like 2 to 3 hours once a month. And one of those questions was, what if your kid isn't really interested in learning about things and you keep trying to open it up? It's a more interest-led learning experience in your homeschool, but your kids just pick something for me. My response was just pick something for them. Give them lots of opportunities to learn lots of different things, and then more time to explore the things that they're choosing that they don't want to have a part of their school. And so you can do that too. It does go hand in hand. So you can do this. You can absolutely do this. You can build these relationships. You can improve their happiness, their levels of contentment in so many different ways. If you want support, the Learners Lab is always there for you. We are always open for new members. There is a benefit to jumping in as soon as you think you might want to, because you only pay month to month. You don't have to make a lifetime commitment, though you can. There is an opportunity to purchase an annual subscription or a lifetime subscription, but you can just join for a month, decide if it's for you or not. No contracts, join anytime. One of the benefits though is if you join, you get in on like the whole month of activity. So if you listen to this on the day it's released and you're like, yes, I definitely need to foster a deeper level of contentment within my home, and I can see where the benefits are going to be, and I want to jump into this right now because I'm not super deep into all of the academic stuff for the coming year, then join, because on Monday, maybe? I don't know. Next week, sometime after this is released, we have a masterclass for parents that goes deeper into what we talked about today, deeper into the science of happiness, deeper into strategies that you can put into place right now to make your homeschool happier, and time for Q&A. And then I'm going to be working with the kids through creative thinking lessons, through social and emotional activities, on how to foster that sense of happiness within their own lives so they can find things that build themselves up, and then they can form deeper relationships with their parents and their siblings. So join us. You can find a link on the website and join anytime. If you have questions, just reach out, support@raisinglifelonglearners.com, or you can go over to the show notes page and click on the bottom. There is a contact form and a link to the contact page. So I'm always here. Just ask me the questions that you have. I'm happy to answer them. Also, take a moment to check out ctcmath.com and Lexercise.com/learners for some free diagnostic testing. And thank them for sponsoring the podcast. If you think about it, we really appreciate them. This helps me produce more episodes and get them professionally edited so you don't have to hear the fighter jets going by while I am speaking. I appreciate you spending your time here today with me. And I know there are lots and lots of podcasts out there that you can be listening to. So I really appreciate the time that you took to listen to this one. If there is an episode you want me to record or a guest you want me to interview, you can drop that in the contact form too. And you'll find links to resources that relate to the science of happiness, how to be a happier family, and then other resources, podcast episodes dealing with resilience and motivation and the different things that come from a happier household, over on the show notes for this episode at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another episode. I can't wait to see you. And I hope you have a great one. Enjoy your family. Find something that sparks joy this week in all of you. And then challenge yourself to do something small every day to maintain that level of contentment so that you can begin to foster that lifelong pursuit of happiness and cultivation of joy in your home. And if you think about it, I would love it if you would just drop me a line, shoot me a message, DM me on social media. Let me know what you're doing to foster that joy and happiness in your home. We are better together, and I would love to hear your ideas. All right, enjoy your kids, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.